Do behaviors reveal a person's true character? Is man judged by what he pretends? The surface more often covers than reveals. The more polished it is, the more likely it's to hide dirt rather than wealth. And as the old adage goes, you can't tell a book by its cover. Indeed, in the age of advertising, when life has become a league of hypocrisy, the person's face is shaped by the advertising lift, quote unquote. It's not the face that matters, but the mask. So many talk about a life that resembles theater, and indeed there are theater people and people who are human theater and the games people play. In their case, it's not the work that matters, but the fancy setting. Today's man, certainly not in absolute numbers, in order to acquire the desirable face, which in secular language is called image, loses his authentic face, becomes an impersonal expression of personality, an odorless, colorless, tasteless entity. It obliges to an ordered adjustment. It liquefies and pretends to be something other than what it is. Hypocrisy becomes a necessity. Many times man says things he does not believe and believes in things without saying it. It's not a matter of fear but of interest. A golden rule, golden in every sense, of behavior teaches you to think not what you will offer to get, but what you will get to offer. There is even fear. Most people don't judge, compare, or criticize. This forces the other person, who does not want to be exposed to the arrows of malicious criticism, to adopt a lifestyle that does not express him, that falsifies his true being. So maybe people are pretending because they are being judged and not in a benevolent way. Luther said, "Hypocrisy is the respect which vice offers to virtue." Whoever pretends deep down feels that he is betraying himself or some values. Since he can't be good, at least he tries to appear to be good. And this too is a small tribute to virtue, but it is not enough. Authenticity is the power of the brave. Hypocrisy is the power of the weak or self-interested. And it's said that the power within, quotes, proves to be stronger than honest and sincere behavior. But unfortunately, the world has learned to judge more with the ears and less with the mind. According to the well-known legend of Krylov, two barrels once rolled down a downhill road. The full one flowed silently, while the empty one pounded deafeningly. In our age, an age of wave and vertigo, the opinion that the lighter you are, the higher you go, and that the more impressive the warp, the more intense and above all effective is the dazzle you cause, finds a huge response. Thus the behavior is often artificial, often covered by an appearance of kindness and delicacy, which casts an evening light on interpersonal relationships, a half light that misleads and does not allow people to see things in their true dimension. It's a fact that many times what Buffon said is true. Le style, c'est l'homme. In other words, the style is the man. Speech and actions echo the whole spiritual and more superstructure of the individual, when of course the style equals the ethos. However, when today everything is as seen, quote unquote, we have a duty to ask ourselves, is it possible that man is ultimately judged by what he pretends to do? After all, the manners of behavior are sometimes similar to bizarre bells, which you ring to invite the credulous, who are also more prone to error, and to elicit an admiration deep down hollow. The human model of the first impression, so strongly marketed by projection systems, creates people who construct surfaces. However, just as a snail is a prisoner of its shell, so they are a prisoner of their predatory conformity. The burdensome politeness, the meekness, the unnecessary compliments hide lowly flatteries reminiscent of dwarf gestures of a medieval lord. It takes, without a doubt, great experience and insight to see what lies behind the phenomenon. We must not forget that today, when it takes great art to live and even greater art to survive, pretending has become a way of life. It's the product of a society that was based on the fear of the truth and hooked on the lie. Projection systems want and set the ideal of the successful person to be based on the maximum, quote, I sell the inside to buy the outside, end quote. With hypocrisy, the outer man wins and the inner man loses. Seduced, therefore, by these fragile standards, the man of our time does not have time to build a face. He creates a plastic character which helps him to hide his true self, to wear masks, most often poorly, and to appear faceless. On this basis, he considers the unnatural natural. He rushes the innate and his more propensities for spontaneity, free expression, and wears the invisible robe of a king, quote unquote, which cannot hide his nudity. Time is the enemy of pretense. Someday, some children the pure look, will see and cry that, oh, the king is naked, they'll say. And then man will be judged by what he is and not by what he pretends to be. After the presence of Luigi Pirandello, even the theatrical characters claim the right to have their own face and not the face that the author puts on them. Only in the theater of life do persons passively accept the mask and cease to be persons. They become, quote unquote, personalities. Usually this mask hides fragility. It is good to be suspicious of impressionable people, but distrust also needs moderation, because just as credulity opens the door to error, so distrust can lead us to wrong assessments. In particular, there are sensitive people who appear cynical so as not to give others the opportunity to hurt them. There are even people whose position obliges them to shield or stifle internal vibrations in order to fulfill a hard task. Very often behind the strictness hides the most genuine tenderness. The hard shell hides a pearl. There is even the case of young people who, in the spirit of modernism, consider politeness a sign of urban degeneration. Soon the handshake and the thank you will be declared protected species. Their eccentric appearance and unsophisticated behavior force the elders to often judge them harshly without looking to find what lies beneath. Could it be then that the judgments of the ancients are not severe but unjust? But on the other hand, is this raw honesty of young people just rawness presented as honesty? It's difficult to give the answer because generalization always does injustice to some people. One thing, however, seems indisputable. Being and appearance have been dangerously joined to the benefit of appearance, quote unquote. Is does not matter so much anymore. And this applies, in Greece you are whatever you declare. Man is not always inquisitive and worry of what appears dazzling to him. Thus, narcissistic sophists, grandiose swindlers, vain sinologists, and apostoles of utopia often win recognition and success, making Palama's verse, lean if thou wilt, look like a chimera. However, it's necessary to be cautious, knowing from experience that all that glitters is not gold, and that empty vessels sound louder. It's a duty to transcend the personal and ascend to the superpersonal, not descend to the impersonal. Chameleonism shows neither style nor ethics. The diabolical behavior will one day lead us to Brecht's bitter realization, quote, what the lime destroyed us was no longer a person, end quote. In these days, when the hunt for our face is like the hunt for the lost ark, he puts forward as a vital demand that we feel that honesty is the most realistic attitude to life, and that ultimately living as a troop of shadows is not a certain solution. This is from the book by Sarandos Kariakos, Problems, a Dialogue with Young People, Gutenberg, Athens, 1997, Volume 5. And I've translated this for you from a Greek article. In other words, honesty is the best policy. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support. and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.